Hey everyone, I'm Eric the Wizard, and welcome back to my channel Modern Christian Occultist, or I guess if it's your first time, welcome. Today I am playing the silly Bible game again. I really like the trivia, and even though I can tell this is just, like, hey, we plugged the Bible into a, kinetic word game. I'm blanking on the terms. Um, Even though this is very simple, I actually really enjoy it, and that kind of shows that, you don't need a lot of fancy stuff in a game to make it enjoyable. You kind of just need a good idea because I really love this, and I hope you all are enjoying it too. But also, I guess I'd suspect you would be if you're watching. If you don't enjoy this, why are you here? I also want to say thank you for the kind feedback from everyone on my last two videos. I really am making an effort to be louder now. I'm not saying this to be like, oh, pity me or whatever, but I'm in the habit of not speaking in my real voice. My entire life, I've been criticized, I guess, whenever I use my real voice, so I've kind of adopted a softer, I don't want to say fake voice, but I've adopted a voice that isn't my own, that I use most of the time, to the point where even when I'm talking to myself or completely alone, I end up using it, which isn't that great. For people who know me from the more occult side of things rather than the more Christian side of things, um, they might be interested in this story where there's this cleansing bath exorcism ritual I do somewhat regularly. And one time I did it using my real voice, the voice I'm using right now, rather than using a softer, the voice that I typically use. And I got really good results that time. I got results different than any other time I've done it. And because of that, when I went to write in my journal about it, I wrote down in all caps, use your real voice when you do this. And then the next time I did it, just from muscle memory and habit, I didn't use my real voice again. And in not using my real voice, I got the same results I was always getting prior to the time that I used my real voice, which it wasn't nothing, but it also wasn't that great. It was very I guess if you have similar beliefs to me, you'd probably describe it as the underlying pattern of the ritual has been done so many times by so many people that even if you do it incorrectly or just mess it up in one way or another, you still will get some results just because you're tapping into a functional pattern. But then when you actually do it correctly, you get hit by a whole different type of results. Um, so I so when I did it again, not using my real voice, and I didn't get the best results, I then made a note in my journal afterwards saying, once again in all caps, do this in your real voice. And then I haven't done it since just because my life has been hectic. Um, but yeah, what I'm just getting at here is I really need to get in the habit of using my real voice. I'm really grateful for these comments because, one, now that I'm moving, this means that if I get in the habit of using my real voice now, once I move, people who meet me will have met me with me only using my real voice, so it'll be the only thing they expect of me. People who know me right now, probably if I suddenly started speaking like this to them, would be confused or even frustrated. Um, so I'm grateful I have this now, especially because all of the occupations I'm considering for my future require a lot of speaking. Whether I'm a pastor, whether I'm a religious studies professor, whatever comes of my life, I should be in the habit of speaking as Eric and not just doing a little voice. So thank you so much for the kindness and the encouragement to talk like this, and I hope my real voice isn't too grating on you. But yeah, since I last did this, I clicked through all of the books that I have actually read, and when I say actually read, I mean have read in order. Um, I have read a lot of the Bible throughout my life, but there's a big difference between having independently read every single story in Genesis, for example, and actually sitting down and reading through Genesis, maybe 6 chapters a day or something. In my case, it's more of, 4 chapters a week, give or take. Having it in order is really just different. So I'm interested to see once I've read them in order, which I do, how much I retain. Is that different than my previous understanding of the Bible? So yeah, I've clicked through all the books I've read so far this year, and when I say year, I mean starting in last September, starting at Simchat Torah. I'm not Jewish, but that's when I started the commitment to myself to actually try to read the Bible seriously. Um, since then, I've read, I think, only 6 books? No, 8? I don't know, I can't count, and I have not been sleeping well recently. I think it's been 6. Um, but today, let's just do the Genesis quiz and see how well I do, and I think that'll be a good foundation for stuff. I will say it's been a while since I finished Genesis, because at this current point, I'm reading through Numbers. You can actually just Google weekly Torah portion or whatever, and it'll tell you where I am right now. So let's see what I remember about Genesis, which this is a big quiz. It's 195 questions, so this is going to be the only quiz I do in this video. But I'm both nervous and excited, so let's get in here. Most tasks with naming all living creatures. Adam. Oh yeah, another challenge I'm giving myself is to actually slow down and read each answer, because in 2 of the previous videos there have been times, well, I've only made 2. In both of my previous videos there have been times where I know the correct answer, and I picked the wrong one because my goal was to just answer as fast as possible. It wasn't to, like, sit down and read. Which I know this is, like, test taking 101, and they tell you this before, like, every standardized test you've ever taken in school. I'm gonna turn down my desktop audio because the background noise here is really grating on me, and I'm assuming it's grating on you as well. I like the peaceful music, though. Sorry. Please, just like people left comments about me being quiet, if the music is too loud, or if now I'm too loud, whatever, please leave a comment letting me know. I really want to just optimize this so it gets to a point where someone could click on one of my videos and it would just be a pleasing experience and not, the way that it is. Yeah, but now it's test taking 101, where you need to read through every single answer before you pick, so you don't make a stupid mistake, like me picking harp rather than lyre, or me picking 30 silver shekels rather than 30 silver pieces. So I'm going to slow down, which, because this is like 129 questions, that might make this a longer video, but I know for a fact this one is Adam. Huh. I have eyes. What's early at? I don't know. I'm gonna say gentle. It could be gentle or kind, because I know that, wasn't it like Leah found, I forget who, Jacob, Isaac, she found one of the patriarchs who was looking for a wife, like, from his own people, and she found him at a well, where she then provided, like, water, or she provided for him at the well, and I think she had either kind. I'm gonna say gentle because I like that, but I have no idea. Okay. What prominent figure in Genesis practiced divination? All of them. But, like, I mean, Joseph specifically did, like, dream divination, but then he also had his divination cup, where it's unclear if he actually used it, or if he just wanted the appearance of using the cup for divination. I'm gonna select Joseph, because I just don't know. Okay, they say it's right, but I don't know if it's right as in they count dream divination as divination, or if it's right as in whoever wrote this question believes Joseph used his silver cup for divination. So, who knows? How many pairs of every clean animal were brought into the ark? I think it was 7 pairs of every clean animal, and then 1 pair of every unclean, but also I know for a fact that the Noah's Ark story, you can see where they took the Yahwist source and the Elohist source and merged the 2 stories, so it does kind of go back and forth saying contradictory things. Before anyone hits the comment section and says that the documentary hypothesis has been disproven, I am a neo-documentarian, which means that I believe there's even more sources, and they've been blended together in multiple stages, and then those blended sources were blended together further. So, like, please don't come at me trying to say, oh, I can disprove that these 4 things came together. Guess what? I think a billion things came together. Disprove that. Yay, I'm correct. Sorry, if I have a weird energy, I just had coffee for the first time in, like, 3 weeks? 4 weeks? Because, my health has just been bad. Where was the Tower of Babel constructed? I think the plain of Shinar. I think. I was about to say Canaan. This sounds familiar though, but also that means something else could happen. I'm just gonna pick this. Okay, I was right. Let's go. She laughed. Um, that's actually where Isaac, Yitzhak, I'm probably mispronouncing that, comes from. It means she laughed, he laughed. I forget the gender. I want to say she because Sarah laughed, but I also want to say he because he was a boy. But yeah, that's what the name means. It's actually a really cute name because like she laughed at the idea she'd be a mom, and then boom, she's a mom now, and her kid's name is basically laughter. Like that's really cute. Where did Abraham? I think it was Hebron. I don't know though. 'Cause I know Bethel. I think is where Jacob fell asleep and saw the ladder. I don't know what. I think Beersheba was where. That's where Hagar saw. Um, no, that was El Roy, right? For like the God who sees. I don't know. I'm gonna pick Hebron because I don't know. Okay, thanks. Sorry if I'm getting quiet again. I like really have to actively remind myself to speak loudly and speak normally rather than like slipping back into muscle memory for my voice. Who was a commander of Gerar's army? I don't know. I'm gonna say this. Okay. After Jacob's sons killed all the circumcised men of Hamor, what didn't they take as spoils of the war? Ideally they wouldn't take idols, right? But also children, because with the women, I know multiple times it says like, oh, you can take wives among you of the unmarried women, but not the women who are married to people that you killed. Children, I don't know why you would take a child, like ideally not as slavery or whatever, but probably yeah. Livestock, I know sometimes had to be sacrificed to God, but other times you could take them, so I have no idea if that's the case here. Idols, I don't think you would ever be told to take, so I'm just going to select idol. Okay. I don't know, though. A hard question. Just following. Um, I think he gave all of those, though. Like, didn't he give, like, a palace and a wife and a signet ring? Um, actually, I don't know if he gave a signet ring. I kind of want to pick palace, but maybe he was allowed to live in the palace. I forget. I'm going to pick this just because it stands out. It's probably wrong. Oh, okay. Wow. Again, this game really helps highlight my blind spots in all of this. Okay, actually, leave a comment here, because this video will probably be long, so how long the quiz is. For something longer, like a quiz on the entirety of Genesis, like something with over 100 questions, would it be better if I did it as a live stream? That might be easier on my computer, like avoiding bigger files. But at the exact same time, I probably won't be reading any comments in the live stream because, pardon my little hiccup, because I don't want any answers like spoiled for me. I don't want to be given the answers. But then also I could get live feedback about if there's like an annoying sound or, you know, if I'm being too loud or too quiet. So I guess let me know if you think I should stream this rather than record it. I've just been recording because I don't plan on getting live feedback, but I also don't plan on editing it, so maybe streaming would be better. No clue. Joseph inherits a ridge of land from Israel. Who did Israel take it from? I don't know, probably the Amorites. That sounds familiar, and that would make this a good fake answer, but also the opposite exists. Okay, I'm right. Cool. What did God create on the second day? I think the sky? Because isn't the pattern God creates places and then fills them? So, like, first he creates the world, then he creates the sky, then he, like, creates the waters, then he creates the land and sea, but then he fills all of them. So, like, then he has to fill the world with something, I forget what. Then he has to fill the sky with the sun, the moon, the stars, and planets. Then he has to fill the oceans and the sky with, like, when I say sky there, I mean the divided waters, you know. So, like, then he has to fill it with birds and fish, and then he has to fill the earth with animals. No, I think he fills earth with vegetation. I'm just gonna say sky. I don't know. Okay, I'm right. Well, also the two Genesis accounts are different. First of all, they follow a different order. Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, or chapter 1 of Genesis and chapter 2 of Genesis, they follow a different order. But I'm pretty sure the pattern I just stumbled through is seen in the first chapter of Genesis. Look it up. I don't know. If I seem weirdly sassy, I mean it to come across in a playful way and not in like a aggressive way. Sorry if I seem a little aggressive today. I'm just trying to be like silly. Which precious material not found? I think maybe silver. These three sound familiar, unless onyx was found in like Kush or something. I forget. No, I'm right. Let's go, gang. What was Adam's curse? It was to work the ground. Instead of eating by just, wandering through the garden and picking food already provided for him, now he had to labor to produce food. Who invented dwelling in tents and tending cattle? I think Jubal, literally just because that would make Tubal and Jebal both like good fake answers. I believe this is one of the descendants of Cain, though, and not one of the descendants of Seth, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong, because I think the pattern, right, is all of the descendants of Cain invented stuff that's like useful, where all of the descendants of Seth just like were listed as having more kids. And it's not trying to say they didn't do anything useful, but they are remembered for having more kids, where the descendants of Cain are remembered for like what they invented. And that kind of shows this dichotomy between like Seth's descendants were creating more and more like worshippers of God. So they're creating like more and more people who would inherit, which is what God valued in them. Where like Cain's descendants were creating more and more stuff that like benefits people, but wasn't really to serve God. It was just like to benefit and to serve other people, and only that. I'm not wording this idea well, but this is like a theological idea that is out there, which I find interesting because if you read the books of Enoch, a lot of stuff that benefits people is shared as like being given by fallen angels. And then when you read Exodus, when you're getting the instructions on the building of the temple, the abilities to do certain types of embroidery and certain types of metalworking are explicitly explained as abilities granted by God to certain people, which makes it like a spiritual gift, like the type Paul wrote about. So there, you kind of get this dichotomy between like spiritual gifts given by not God, like fallen angels, and spiritual gifts given by God. And like some people would probably say dwelling in tents or whatever is a spiritual gift given by not God, and they might try to syncretize Cain's descendants like inventing bronze smithing or whatever with like a different account of a fallen angel introducing bronze smithing to humanity. So they might say, oh, well, Cain's descendants were like constantly in communication with angels getting knowledge, where like Seth's descendants were constantly just in communication with God, bringing forth more and more God-fearing humans. Which I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just saying is you can pull a bunch of passages together to paint this narrative. And I think it's Jubal. Okay, I'm wrong. I'm still glad I got to share that. Um, these videos might just be a lot of me yapping, but honestly, I'm glad I can just yap about the Bible, because usually when I try, people either argue with me on stuff, or they just don't care, because this doesn't apply to their life. And like, if you don't personally have like an interest in the Bible, why do you care like what some random guy thinks about it? So I'm just gonna make these and put them out into the void, and I hope someone out there wants to hear me yap on the Bible for a while, because this is my primary interest in life. Um, why was Noah spared from the flood? I think it was because he was blameless before the Lord. Let's go. How many days and nights it rained during the flood? 40, which that number appears a billion times throughout the Bible, so it probably has some special significance. I think it was the dove returned with a branch, because the raven did not return, but that was not a sign for him to leave the ark, which makes me wonder, like, did the raven die? Like, did it not return because it flew around and drowned? Or did it find a place to live and just didn't come back, where the dove found a place to live but did come back, you know? What? Interesting. Either I did not read through all the answers, which is true. I jumped down to the dove thing. I need to remember to read all the answers. Um, yeah, either I did not read all the answers, or I have the story in the wrong order in my head. Sorry if you can hear that plane being really loud above my house. Who is Abram's father? I do not know. I'm just gonna say Terah, because that's a cool name. Heck yeah, we did it. What did Abram give to the king answer after receiving the blessing from God Most High? I think nothing, right? Didn't the king give to like Abram a tenth of everything, but Abraham gave the king nothing? Oh, okay. This shows I gotta reread Genesis already, which this October I'm gonna restart reading through the first 5 books, because that's gonna be my new yearly thing, and it's been really nourishing in my spiritual journey. What did Abraham do on the day God made his covenant with him? I think he circumcised all men. Okay. Yeah, I'll be real. I don't want to say like growing up I didn't read the Bible, but growing up I would really only get the Bible in the excerpts that people would teach me in church. So like taking it upon myself to read outside of that has just been really good, both for my faith, but also for my understanding of the Bible. Like I'm just learning stuff. And I'm not trying to say that like people tried to discourage me from reading the Bible, but like no one encouraged me to do it. So I thought, oh, I'm gonna learn it. Like I'll just learn it passively, going to church and like talking with others. But like no, sitting down once a week and reading the weekly Torah portion, despite not being Jewish, has been like one of the best choices I've made in my life. And then right now, sitting down and just trying to read through like a few chapters of Paul's letters every day, in the last week alone, that's made a profound difference in how I feel about myself and my life and other people and people I care for, and it's been a profound positive difference. But like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm not saying that to boast or to brag. I'm just saying that to be like, it's like when people say like, oh, I started drinking water every day and now I feel great. Like, I've I'm experiencing that now with other lifestyle choices. What did Lot's daughters name their son after Lot impregnated them both? Um, I think it was Moab and Ben Ami, because Ben means son. So I think this means like son of my father. I don't know, because like the I ending means like mine in Hebrew, and would not mean. It doesn't matter. I think that's the right answer, and it is. I know that son being in the name is important, and I know it's related to the incest that created that son, but like I don't remember the Hebrew for it. Who sold the cave of... I don't know. I'm gonna say Lotan, because that sounds familiar. Okay, cool. Did Esau stew? Okay, stew isn't an answer. Pagan, lentil soup is. I almost said pagan soup, which I don't even know what pagan soup would be. What did Jacob rename the city of Luz? I don't know. How about... Oh, it was Jacob, so it has to be Bethel, right? Because it's the house of God, and that's where he had his ladder vision. Yep. I did know that one. What did Jacob do after learning? Um, yeah, it was this one. They were actually really sneaky about it, where they were like, "We're gonna marry her to the rapists." But in order for y'all to get married and join our family, you all have to be circumcised. So then all of the men got circumcised, and then while they were in recovery from that, they killed all of them. Which I when I had bottom surgery, I was out of commission for a while. Like, if someone tried to jump me the day after that, they would have succeeded. So, like, oh, really? Interesting. I misremembered that then. Don't listen to anything I just said. Everything I just said was wrong. How much money did Joseph's brothers receive for selling him as a slave? I don't know. I kind of want it to be 30 shekels because that would make it kind of seem like, um, not like a prophecy, but that would kind of give it like a running thread with Jesus being sold by Judas, sort of. But I'm not saying Jesus was sold, but you know what I mean. But also the other numbers feel more real. Like sevens are everywhere, 50s are everywhere. I kind of want it to be 70. Okay, maybe it was 30. I have no idea. What are the symbols and signs Joseph interpreted in Pharaoh's dream? Sorry, I'm having like weird throat and chest stuff. Cows and grain. He saw 7 thin cows eat up 7 fat cows, and 7 like shriveled. I was always taught corn rather than grain, but like 7 shriveled heads of corn like eat and destroy 7 like good healthy heads of corn. Which I'm not saying it was corn back then. I'm just saying as the translations I read always had corn. Obviously, it'd be some native plant to that region that I'm not familiar with. I'm from the Midwest, though. I know what corn is. What did Joseph tell his servant to hide in Benjamin's grain sack? His divination cup, the silver cup that maybe he used for divination and maybe he didn't. This should be which are. Oh, unless they mean peep. Wait. What? I don't understand. I guess is would be grammatically correct because we're talking about peoples, so people would be the individual there. But my guess would be priests, right? Maybe Egyptians, but I think Egyptians were still subject to like corvée labor, but maybe the priests were able to live in the temples and not become. I think it's priests. Okay. Like corvée labor is not slavery though. First up, and then also I don't think we have any like archaeological evidence that the Israelites were ever enslaved by Israel. Not to downplay the religious significance of being a people that was freed by God from slavery, because I think it's a very powerful metaphor, and a metaphor that Paul takes abundant use of in his letters. But like, you don't need to think that it legitimately happened. First of all, you can think it metaphorically happened. A saying I like is, "The Bible is true, but not literal always." Or no, the Bible is always true, but not always literal. Um, I don't know. A lot of these questions don't make sense to me. Where did Joseph mourn the death of his father Israel for 7 days? I don't know. Gerar sounds familiar, so I'm clicking that. Okay. What did God create on the first day? I guess I know it's either land or oceans or light and darkness. Because I think it's light and darkness first. Because when he was first above the waters, they were without form, and I think he formed them after the light. Okay. I should know this. I was taught that as a kid. I'm just tired. Why did God place Adam in the Garden of Eden? Both of these I think are true. Actually, I think 3 of these are true. I'm gonna say to work it, but then his punishment was working land. I would say to enjoy it, but I don't think, even if he was meant to enjoy it, I don't know if that was like the reason God gave. I'm gonna say to work it. Okay, cool. I'm glad that's the answer they wanted, because I have no idea. Cain's curse was to wander the earth. I also think he couldn't grow food, right? Didn't he have to go be a bow hunter for his food? Maybe that was someone else. Men would try to kill him, but he had a mark on him so that no one would kill him because he'd be avenged 7-fold by God. Some people believe he'll never die. Like, some people actually believe Bigfoot is Cain. I don't believe that. I'm just sharing. Some people believe he'd never die, but I think that's an interpretation and not like what was written. Or I think what was written is that he'll wander the earth. Oh, okay, cool. Shows what I know. How many pairs of every kind of bird were brought into the ark? I think 7. Okay. I couldn't remember. What does Noah do first after leaving the ark? I think he does burnt offerings first. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. Okay. My computer fan is being so loud. I'm really sorry if my microphone is picking that up. Why did God curse Pharaoh with illness during Abram's visit? Because yeah. So twice, 2 different times, Abram and Sarai / Abraham and Sarah approach a place, and Abram's like, hey, we need to tell everyone that we're brother and sister, because if we say we're married, they will kill me so they can marry you, because you're very attractive. You're very desirable, so they'll just do whatever they can to get you, which includes killing me. And the thing is, they technically are brother and sister, where I think it's like maybe half brother, half sister, but like back then familial relationships were different anyway, where they were brother and sister. So they're not lying. They're just omitting the fact that they're also husband and wife. But they do this twice, and both times, because he says we're brother and sister, she is taken and married to someone, but he is not killed, which is what he claims he was trying to prevent. Because he's like, I know people are going to try to marry her no matter what. If they know we're married, they'll try to kill me. If they don't know we're married, they'll just go marry her. So someone else marries her, and then God prevents them from consummating the marriage. But then God also curses the people married to her and gives those people true and prophetic dreams saying, like, you are with a married woman, stop it. So then they go, like, confront Abram, and Abram will be like, oh yeah, I lied to you, and she's my wife, but I only did it so you wouldn't kill me. And then their response is always like, oh, completely understandable, and because you serve the true God, here's a billion blessings. Which is just funny, because it's like your household is cursed, you're getting these like nightmares, and then you find the person who caused it, and you're like, here's a present. Which I get why, and I'm intentionally misrepresenting it for the sake of humor, but I don't know, those always stand out to me when I read them. I'm like, what the heck? How old was Abram when he was renamed Abraham? I think 72. Okay, I don't know, I know he's old. Why did Lot's scholars get him drunk? This is why. Sad but true. Before his death, Abraham sent the sons he had with concubines to the land of what? I want to say East, because people bring up East a billion times in Genesis. Yep. If you're curious about East being mentioned a billion times in Genesis, go look up one of my videos. I think it's called The East Air Connection in Genesis. I don't know. I'm not going to look it up right now. Just go to my channel. I've made like 4 videos. You'll find it. What did Isaac request Esau do before he gave him the blessing? Prepare him a meal of wild game. Okay, I actually did stop before clicking, and I read all the other answers. So, let's go. What did Rachel say to prevent Laban from looking under her pillow for stolen goods? This is the thing I brought up in the last video. She said she was on her period, because not only, obviously right now, if someone tells you that they're on their period, which is why you can't look under them, you're not going to make them move because you don't want to cause them discomfort. But back then, there was also the additional, any seat a menstruating woman sat on was considered ritually unclean, or like ceremonial unclean. So because you could only do certain religious acts while ceremonially clean, I think touching like a seat or a bed that a menstruating woman has been on, I think that makes you ceremonially unclean until sunset. I don't think you have to wash yourself or do any sort of purification. You just kind of have to wait. But obviously, searching under her pillow, touching that, you would become ceremonial. If you become ceremonially unclean until sunset, that means like you can't do your sunset prayer. If you're gonna like eat bread or something before then, you can't do your normal prayer over the bread before you eat it. Like, it would just ruin the rest of your day. So this was really smart of her to do. What she's doing here is very smart, but also dangerous. Sorry, I think everyone can tell I'm like caffeinated for the first time in weeks because I'm acting like absolutely insane right now. Who did God strike dead for? It was Onan, because that's why they call it Onanism when you do certain stuff today. I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube, but that's where the word comes from. What are the names of Joseph's first 2 sons? I don't know, because guess what? These are all names of his sons. All of these are valid names of the tribes of Israel, which were named after Joseph's sons, I think. No, wait. No, wait, the tribes of Israel were named after Jacob's sons, so that eliminates this, and wait, okay, it's one of these 2. Because I know Ephraim is the name of a tribe of Israel, but I also think it's, like, I know for a fact these are, but I forget if Manasseh or Simeon. Oh golly, I don't know. Oh, but like no, two of the tribes of Israel are named after Joseph's sons, right, rather than Jacob. Because in Numbers, when they're listing out, the leader of each tribe and how many men from each tribe did X, Y, and Z, like in the first few chapters of Numbers, they would always specify with two of the people saying, and these were the sons of Joseph. I think it's this. I literally only got that correct. In my head, I was thinking first two, and I was like, well, who came first? I don't know. But when I realized it said Joseph and not Jacob, then I just had to try to visualize the first few chapters of Numbers in my head and see where on the page the names fell, and I got the right one. Um, Whoa, that was cool. I'm sure no one else finds that impressive, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm impressed I was able to do that. But also, it's fresh in my mind because I'm reading through Numbers right now. Um, from which district in Egypt did Joseph give land to his fathers and brothers? I don't know. I'm gonna say Amenhotep because that just sounds familiar, but it probably sounds familiar because that's like a famous pharaoh or something. I know Ramses is a famous pharaoh, so I'm not clicking that. Okay, I think I fell for a trap. That's fine. What did Joseph make the people of Israel swear to him on his deathbed? I know what it was. It was to carry his bones. I think it was it was one of these three. If this is a place in the promised land, then it was this. If not, it was that. But he needed to be buried in the promised land, and he was. His bones were carried to the promised land, so it can be any of these three. I'm gonna say carry his bones because I feel like it, and that was correct. So good call. What did God make on the third day? I don't know. Um, it might be creature. Okay, if on the first day he made light, and then on the second day he made like separated the lands and the waters, and on the third day maybe he made the suns and the moon. Oh, maybe it's not he made three things and then populated three things and rested. It could have been he makes a thing, he makes another thing, he populates the first thing, he populates the second thing, then he makes another one, then he populates it. I'm gonna say sun and moon. I'm not sure. Okay. I need to reread Genesis, which I will, starting this October, I think. And, you know, after a few years of that, I'll probably actually remember things from it. How old was Adam when he had his first child? I think it's unknown, but it could also be 130 years. I'm going to say 130. Okay, it's probably unknown. I have no idea. What did God regret making mankind? Many times. He has said many, many times throughout Genesis and like Exodus that he regrets making us. Sorry, I'm like losing my mind. How many days did the flood waters cover the earth? I don't know, because I know it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, but then it was covered in rain for a long time. I'm going to say 200 because I like that number. Okay. God says he confused mankind's language because if he did not do it, there would be what? There would be nothing they could not accomplish. This is literally the like, if God didn't nerf me with social anxiety, I would have been unstoppable. It's like those memes. It was, if we could all communicate together, we could rise up against God. An angel found Hagar by a spring on the road to where? I think Shur? No, it could be Shinar. No, because the plains of Shinar. I think it's Shur. We did it, gang. What did the angels do to stop the men of Sodom from blinded them? Um, I've seen I've seen some good comedy about that, which uh, maybe not appropriate for a church and definitely not appropriate for YouTube, but I've seen some funny takes on that story. Bethuel was the mother of which man's wife? I'm gonna say Isaac. Yes. I knew it couldn't be like Jacob, right? Because Jacob married Leah and Rachel, and I don't think she was Leah and Rachel's mom, and I don't know the name of Sarah's mom, so I just picked. How many wives did Esau have? I don't know, because a lot of these people have multiple wives, but then they also have servants or slaves given to them as wives, like, but then often that would be listed separately. Like they'd be like, you know, this guy had like two wives, but then he also had like these slaves given to him as wives, but then later on they'd refer to him as having two wives. So, like clearly the author at one point, like the author of some later bit did not count the enslaved wives as wives. Um, I'm gonna say 6. Okay. Oh, my computer's trying to update now. Interesting. I'm gonna hope it doesn't do that mid-video, because that would frustrate me. What did the people... What did the people... I can't pronounce that. And Hamor do to establish peace with Dina's brother? I think it was circumcised. I think this is the story I was telling earlier. I think I just attribute it to the wrong... Yeah. Okay, so the story I told earlier is true. It just wasn't the question. It wasn't what they were asking about earlier. Why did Judah decide not to burn Tamar alive? Because she was innocent. Okay, so the story of Tamar, this goes back to Onan. So there's a concept called levirate marriage, or levirate marriage, I don't know how to pronounce it, where if you're a woman and you marry a man and then he dies before you have kids, you then marry his brother, and like the kids you have are technically the kids of your deceased husband and not your current husband, his brother. So there's this woman named Tamar who married a man, and he died. So then she was married to one of his brothers, and I think this was Onan. And Onan intentionally did not want to have children with her, because if he had children with her, it would not be his kids but his brother's kids, and he didn't want to like raise kids that weren't his, you know. So he intentionally avoided getting her pregnant, and God struck him down for that. I'm trying to clean up this story a little bit. So then Tamar had another son, and the son was too young to marry, and he promised, not Tamar, sorry. So Judah had another son, and this son was too young to marry, but he promised Tamar, when my son comes of age, he'll be married to you. But then when the son came of age, he did not try to get in contact with her, because he thought, first, one of my sons died married to her. Then, my other son was married to her and God killed him. I'm not going to let God kill my last son. So he secretly held on to this kid. And Tamar became aware of that. So she disguised herself as, YouTube, please don't get mad at me, because like I'm literally teaching about the Bible. This is not me being inappropriate. This is just, you can look it up in the Bible. I'm saying is correct. Tamar disguised herself as a prostitute and made it so that she had a kid with Judah. But the payment, he did not have payment for her at that time. And she said, well, if you give me your seal and your staff, then you kind of have to come back with payment later to get your seal and your staff back. So it's kind of like making a deposit, like when you go to Aldi and you put the quarter in to get your cart, and then you have to return the cart to get your quarter back. So he gives her the seal and the staff, and then she disappears because she's not actually a prostitute. She's just a normal person. I'm not saying those people aren't normal, but what I'm trying to say is like she wasn't going to stay in the place where she was. So later on he comes back to the place where she was to pay her and get his stuff back, and she's not there. And he's like, hey, where was the woman who works here? And everyone was like, there isn't a woman who works here. So then later on, Judah sees that his daughter-in-law Tamar is pregnant, and he's like, hey, well, I know for a fact she isn't married because I've been preventing her from marrying my youngest son. So clearly she committed adultery, because she's like, she should be married to my youngest son, but she's pregnant and she's not married to my youngest son. So he decides to burn her alive. And then she says, oh, but the father of my unborn child, I know, I can prove who he is. To him belong this staff and this seal. And she presents Judah's staff and seal. And then he's like, oh, never mind. So then he says that they can't burn her alive because she's having his kids, and even though getting with the father of your deceased husband isn't standard levirate marriage, she was prevented from doing the standard thing. So she still kind of did the closest she could to what she was supposed to do. So yeah. Which, by the way, he did fail to marry her to Salah. He did fail to do this. I don't know if I should say she was innocent or there was no crime, because both kind of mean the same thing. But I'm glad I got to info dump about that story. This is actually a story I brought up to one of my parents just a year ago or whatever, and they were insisting it wasn't in the Bible. And it's like, it is. I'm going to say she was innocent. Okay, so I guess it's there was no crime. again, the connotations of those answers are different, but I don't understand the point of view of the person writing the question, so I don't know which connotation they'd agree with. Which of Joseph's brothers were held captive in Egypt? I think it was Benjamin. I know it was the youngest one because the father was like, if he does not return, I will die. Not only was it the youngest one, but it was the last surviving one by the same mother of Joseph, which was Joseph's father's favorite wife. I think it was Benjamin. Okay, then maybe it was Judah. Even though I don't remember the name, I remember the significance. Which of Israel's sons will be the viper biting at the heels of the horses? I think it's Issachar, right? No, okay. I know one of the 12 tribes, their symbol is a snake, because I recently had the great pleasure of touring this, like, Judaica museum in a synagogue, like, I don't know, 40 minutes from my house. And they had multiple items that had, like, a symbol for each of the 12 tribes there. Like, they had this beautiful Torah breastplate that had, like, a symbol for each of the 12 tribes. And one of them was the viper, and I forget which one. I don't know. Okay, on the fourth day, if he made the sun, moon, stars on the third day... Wait, no. Did he? I forgot if the answer is right or not. It can't be this. It might be land, sea, and fruit, but I don't think the sea was made on the same day as... I don't think fruit was made on the same day as land and sea. Maybe it was the fish and the birds? Okay. That one probably was the sun, the moon, the stars. Oh, golly. I'm gonna look like a massive idiot, because, like, I can't memorize, like, 7 days in order, which, like, is something kids are taught, and then I'll, like, go and rant about, like, something no one cares about forever. What caused Adam and Eve shame? They knew they were naked. Once again, I fell into the trap of not reading all questions. I'm gonna check how long this recording is, actually. Oh, golly, it's been 46 minutes. I don't know if my computer can handle me making, because we're less than halfway through the quiz. I don't know if my computer can handle such a long video. We'll see. I'm going to try to record, like, I guess, I don't know, 2-hour video and upload it and see what happens. Who invented the harp and the pipe? I think it was Tubal-Cain. If not, it was one of Cain's descendants, because of what I said earlier about how Cain's lineage invented, like, everything cool, and Seth's lineage had a bunch of kids. Could have been Mahalalel, too. It was not David. I don't know. I'm going to say Tubal-Cain. Okay, I don't know. I need to study up on Cain's lineage. In Genesis chapter 6, it says the earth was corrupt and full of what? I think violence. No, maybe giants? It's one of these two. If it was giants, that would mesh well with the Book of Jubilees, which is Apocrypha, but if it's violence, that meshes well with the world. I'm going to say giants for fun. Okay, it's probably violence then. On what day was the earth completely dried after the flood? I don't know. Genuinely don't know. I'm just going to pick a random one. Okay. Where are the great trees of Mamre located? I'm going to say Havilah. Oh, wait, no. Maybe Negev. It's one of these two. I'm going to say Havilah. Or it could have been something else. I don't know. What town did Lot flee when avoiding Sodom's destruction? Oh, golly. I don't know. Maybe Zoar? Okay, cool. I just picked the only name that sounded familiar. Who is Abram's brother? I think Nahor. No, it could be Ruel. It's one of these two. Pick Ruel. Probably Nahor then. All the names kind of blend together for me. What is the name of Isaac's uncontested well? I think it was Goshen. I'm pretty sure. Okay, never mind. What name was Jacob given after us? He was named Israel, which literally means he who struggles with gods. Like, Isra is struggle, and the El suffix is God. Just a fun fact. Which of Judah's sons was struck dead for being wicked? I guess Onan? Because we just talked about that? No? Okay. What region did Joseph promise to his father in the last 5 years of famine? I like Moria because Lord of the Rings. Okay. I'm sure it's becoming very clear. I'm not very good with trivia, but I am very good with narrative. So if the trivia is something about, like, one of the narrative stories, I probably have the story memorized and I know the beats of the story. But if the trivia is like, what was the name of this? Or what year did this happen? I don't know. Like, I'm not good with names and numbers, but I'm good with remembering stories and the lesson we're supposed to take away from the story. Which of Israel's sons will be attacked by raiders then counterattack? I think it's either Gad or Asher. I'm gonna pick Asher. Okay. I don't know. What did God create on the fifth day? No. It might be land and fruit. It might be wild animals and humans. Could be fish and bird. I'm gonna say fish and birds. Thank goodness, because I think it was wild animals and humans were made last, and then God rested after that. What did God make Adam and Eve's garments from? It's fig leaves, which this is something interesting. Wait, no, they made it from fig leaves. He made it from skin, animal skins, which shows that's kind of like foreshadowing for Jesus' death, because when Adam and Eve made fig leaf clothing, you don't need to kill a plant for that. You can harvest leaves from a plant without killing it. But to get the skin from an animal, you do have to kill the animal for that. So it's like one of God's first acts of compassion for humanity involved killing. So then when we look at God's compassion for humanity through the death of Christ, that also involves killing. And there's this pattern of expressions of love requiring a sacrifice of a life throughout the Bible. It's a very interesting pattern. Also, I'm glad I didn't rush through this, because I would have just picked fig leaves, because I know that's what their first clothing was made of, but that's not what God made it from. Skin and fur, I don't really understand the difference, so I'm just going to pick skin and hope I'm right. Yeah, I'm not doing, just like I'm not doing the whole lineage of Seth versus lineage of Cain thing justice, I'm not doing the whole, like, love requires a sacrifice of a life thing justice. These are both theological ideas that you can look up. I just... I don't know. I struggle, even if I understand an idea, I think I struggle to then convey it to other people. Even if someone explained it to me well, and I then put it in my own words in my head and understand it well, as soon as I have to then explain it to other people, I just shut down. Who is avenged 10 times less than Lamech? I think it would be Cain, because didn't Lamech say, if Cain will be avenged sevenfold, let me be avenged 70-fold. Yeah. On what day of the second month did the flood begin? I'm going to say 15th, because 15th spells one of the names of God. Because you can, here's how the Hebrew alphabet is: Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zayin, Het, Tet, Vav? No, Het, Tet, Yod. So if Yod is the 10th letter, and if He is the 5th letter, then Yod He would be how you write 15. And Yod He is Yah, which, not to take the Lord's name in vain by just saying it, but, like, that is a name of God. So I'm going to say 15th. I'm wrong. Okay. But that is why a lot of festivals are on the 15th of the month. And the 15th of the month is always the full moon, because the new moon is Rosh Chodesh, which is, like, the head of the month. And then the new moon also is kind of equivalent to the Sabbath in a way, where in, like, Leviticus, I think it's either in Leviticus, when it's talked about how the 7th day is given to people as the Sabbath, they also talk about how the new moon is given to the people as, like, a other festival that, like, isn't a holiday but is still special, like the Sabbath. So, like, each month starts with the new moon, and therefore the 15th day of the month will always be the full moon. So a lot of Jewish holidays fall on the full moon, because 15 is significant, because it's one of the names of God. Who is a mighty hunter before the Lord? Nimrod. And that's, like, literally all they say about him. That does not stop people from making weird conspiracies about him, even though he takes up, like, 2 verses in the whole Bible. Look up any, like, Chick Tracts thing about Nimrod. They think he was, like, building the Tower of Babel or something. What was the name of the slave Sarai given to Abram to have children with? It was Hagar. What restored the fertility of Amalek's wife and slaves? It was Abram's prayer, I think, because this is one of the guys who married Sarai when Abraham and Sarah, you know what I mean? They have multiple names. This was one of the people who married Sarah, and then when Abraham is like, actually, I'm her husband and her brother, Sarah gets given back to Abraham, and then I think Abraham, like, bless it. It could be his innocence because he never actually consummated with Sarah, but it could also be that Abraham blessed him. I don't know. I don't understand half these questions, even if I know what they're talking about. Which son did Isaac favor? I think he favored Esau. Yeah. That's why Jacob had to be sneaky. Where did Jacob and Laban form a covenant of peace with one another? I think Goshen. No, okay, it was probably Gilead then. All these names. What did Tamar send to Judah? Oh, the seal, cord, and staff. That's literally what I was talking about. The thing is, like, I know a lot of stuff from the Bible. I just am not good at this game. How much silver did Joseph bestow upon Benjamin? I have no idea. I'm going to say 300. Wow, I'm lucky. How long did it take to embalm him? I don't know. I'm going to say 40 days. That was just based on logic, because I can't imagine embalming taking much longer than that. Okay, on the 6th day, that's when he made wild animals and humans. I'm finally learning Genesis chapter 1. Everyone root for me, I'm going to learn. Who would have enmity between Eve and her children? The serpent. So the serpent will try to kill Eve's children, and Eve's children will crush the head of the serpent. What was the serpent cursed to eat? Dust, which is not what they eat in real life, but you know, you do you, boo. Who were the heroes of old and men of renown? The Nephilim. Again, if you read the apocryphal books of Enoch, you'll know what's up. At what time after the flood did the tops of mountains become visible? I don't know. Okay. Why did Lot and Abram part company? Lack of grazing land. So these two were not traveling as individuals. They were traveling as, like, companies, pretty much. So, like, each of them would have their wives and their kids and their servants. And, you know, each of them would have flocks of sheep or goats or whatever that are tended by servants. And, like, they'd have other relatives with them that had their own flocks. So it's like whenever people mention people traveling in the Bible, don't imagine, like, two people wandering through the wilderness together. Imagine, like, each person being the head of, like, a wandering tribe. So it was lack of grazing land. They literally just had to split the tribe in two. That's what happened. What did the men of Sodom want with the angels in Lot's house? Not going to say it out loud, but we all know the answer. How old was Abraham when he died? I don't know, 1 billion. Okay. Oh, I want to share another fun fact, because I love yapping. So there is a Jewish belief that someone who dies on the same, that someone who's, like, really holy will die on the same day that they're born. And a lot of people believe that belief came about because a lot of the patriarchs and other, like, holy men in the Bible are said to have lived for, like, just a certain number of years. Like, they'll say, oh, he lived for 70 years. They won't say, oh, he lived for 70 years, 2 months, and 3 days. So because people would just say how many years they lived, some rabbis interpreted that to mean that they lived for an exact amount of time. Like, they lived for exactly that many years to the day. In the modern day, when we think and talk about age, we don't think in that way. Like, if someone told me that their grandma died at 98 years old, I would not think that she died on the same day she was born. I would just think she lived either almost 98 years or just past 98 years, you know. But, you know, different cultures throughout time have interpreted things very differently. So now we get a bunch of really cool oral traditions and beliefs from all of this. How many years did Jacob work to marry Rachel? I think he worked 7, and then he had to work another 7 years to marry Leah. Okay, I was wrong. Maybe it was 14 then, for a total of 28 years together? No idea. When I say together, I mean working for his uncle. What kind of animal blood did Joseph's brothers dip in his goat to fix it? I think it was goat. I don't know. I have no idea. Okay. Wow, this video is going to be like forever. I'm so sorry. I feel bad for yapping so much, but also I really enjoy doing it. I might have to start live streaming these. Should I become a Twitch streamer? How much larger was Benjamin's portion of the food than his brothers at Joseph's feast? I don't know. But this is why I thought Benjamin was Joseph's favorite. The last one who got trapped by Oh wait, no, because I'm thinking of Joseph's father, not wait. I'm confused. Don't listen to anything I'm saying. I'm confusing all the different patriarchs. It doesn't help that a lot of them are father and son with one another, so I'm just reversing the names in my head. I'm gonna say 7 times just because I like the. Okay. Who is the ravenous wolf of Israel's sons? I don't know. Probably Benjamin. I remembered the wolf was one of the icons on the Torah breastplates that I was seeing at the museum. Here, I'm gonna check on how long this has been. Make sure it's still recording. Okay, good. Oh, we've hit an hour. This is gonna be like the longest video I've ever made. What did God create on the 7th day? Nothing. That was the Sabbath. Why did God look favorably on Abel's offering? I'm gonna say it was the best that he had, because Abel presented like the first that he got, like the first of his kill or the best of his kill, where I think Cain presented what he was willing to part with from his from what he grew. I'm not sure. I've read many different interpretations on why God favored that. What were the dimensions of the ark in cubits? I don't know. This looks right. Okay. What is the sign of God's covenant with all living creatures on earth? The rainbow. What did Sarai do when she discovered Hagar was pregnant? She mistreated her. Sadly. Hagar got a wife for her son Ishmael while she was living in which desert? I think Paran, right? Yeah. Rebecca despised which group of women? Oh golly, I think it was Hittite. Because it was like she did not want to allow her son to marry from the Hittite women. From what land was Jacob returning when God renamed him Israel? I think Padan Aram. Yeah. I know some stuff. Which of Joseph's brothers did not come from Egypt for grain during their first visit? It was the favorite. Which, if that was not Benjamin, then I guess it was Judah? Okay, maybe it was Benjamin. I don't understand. Sorry if I keep getting quiet again. I've been talking for like an hour, and I had water with me, and then I drank it all. So, yeah. How old was Joseph when he died? I think 110? Yeah. What kind of plant had not appeared on the earth before the 6th day? I think it was trees. Okay, oh, maybe it was any kind of plant. I should have read all the answers. I jumped at an answer without reading them. How old was Adam when he died? I think 930. Yeah. How many pairs of every unclean animal were brought into the ark? I think it was 1. Yeah. Where did Haran die? I don't know. Okay, cool. When Lot told his son-in-laws of Sodom's destruction, they thought he was what? I think insane. Either insane or lying. I'm gonna say, or maybe joking. I'm gonna say insane. Okay, cool. What part of Esau did Jacob hold on to as they were born? His heel. Because, Jacob means, like, he who grabs the heel. Which, that has negative connotations. It kind of means, like, someone who, leeches off of others or takes from others unrightfully. What kind of tree did Jacob bury all rings and foreign gods under in the land of... I'm gonna say... Oh, it's either gonna be cypress and acacia, because I don't think these grew there. Acacia represents immortality, and I forget what cypress represents. So I might pick cypress, because burying them under a tree that represents immortality would be weird. Oh, okay, never mind. Well, that has interesting connotations, then. What name did Pharaoh give to Joseph? It's not Potiphar, because that was Joseph's, like, former enslaver. I think it might be Arpachshad? No, okay. Live and learn. Who are the wrathful sons of Israel? I don't know. Probably this, just because it sounds cool. Okay. Where was the Garden of Eden planted? In the east. Again, I'm gonna self-promote. Check out my video on that. Who is the father of Methuselah? I think Lamech. Oh, okay. Where did God breathe life into Adam? I think the nostrils. Yeah. Who is the king of Sodom? I don't know this. Okay. Which of these did Abimelech not give to Abraham after stealing Sarah as his wife? I think soldiers, because I think he gave him money, livestock, and slaves. I don't think he gave him soldiers. Which, again, that goes to one of the two stories where it happens twice, where Abraham's like, this is my sister, and then she gets married to someone else. Why did Esau marry this person? I think because his wives were barren? No, okay. I have no idea. Why did Potiphar put Joseph in charge of all that he owned? Because everything Joseph did was blessed. What portion of crops did Joseph command be set aside from Pharaoh after he enslaved all of Egypt? I don't know. I think maybe 1/5? Yeah. See, 10th is a good trick one, because it'll make you think of tithing, and you'll select it, but that's not what happened. How was plant life watered before the flood? Streams rising up from the ground. These two are very similar, though. So I don't, I don't understand the difference. What is the name of the city Cain built? I don't know. It could be Babel. It could also be Enoch. It could also be Canaan. I think Canaan, right? Because Canaan sounds like Cain. No, it was probably Babel. Darn. What kinds of birds did Noah use to look for dry land? Crows and doves. A raven. Wait, I forget if it was a crow or a raven. I'm going to pick ravens and doves. Okay, thank goodness I didn't jump on the first answer I liked. That'd be like all of my previous behavior. What was required of Abraham and his household in his covenant with God? Circumcision. Ishmael became skilled at what? I think it was archery. Yeah, that's what I was confusing Cain with. Again, I'm so sorry if my computer fan is making annoying noise. The noise is like really bothering me, but I can't tell if y'all can even hear it. Who in Jacob's family was Deborah nurse to? Maybe Dinah? Maybe Rebecca. I think maybe Rebecca. Yeah. What did Joseph accuse his brothers of in order to detain them? Espionage. He said that they were spies sent from outside of Israel to spy on Israel during this time where everyone had famine, but Israel... If I was saying Israel earlier, I meant Egypt. He was saying they were spies from outside of Egypt, sent into Egypt to spy on Egypt while everyone was in famine, but Egypt had food and other people didn't. Which of these is not one of the 4 headwaters coming out of Egypt? Jordan, Euphrates. I think Jordan. Yeah, because the Jordan River was not in, like, the Promised Land. That was what people... was not in Eden. It was the... I'm going to restart. Those were all rivers, except for Jordan, that were in Eden, where the Jordan is the river that divides the Promised Land. So, who fathered the Nephilim? The sons of God, which people sometimes say are the Watchers. So I don't know what answer this person wants, but the words used in my Bible are the sons of God. What swept across the land? Yeah, sorry if my voice keeps like cutting out. This is probably the most I've spoken in my real voice in a while. So if my voice starts getting scratchy or weird, I apologize. What swept across the land and forced Abram to move to Egypt? Famine, I think. Yeah, that's literally what I was just saying, is everyone had a famine, but Egypt had food stored up due to Joseph's dreams that let him know, like, 7 years ahead of time to start storing up food. Who is the father of Canaan? I don't know. Tubal, Nimrod? I don't know. Abraham and Sarah were what? Half-siblings, I'm pretty sure. It's either half-siblings or cousins. This is what I was saying earlier. These relations were thought of different back then. Like, cousins would be referred to as brothers, and because families were in these, like, tribal... Because families were within this tribal context and everything was different, when someone says someone were brother and sister, they could be brother and sister. They could be half brother, half sister, and they, because, you know, polygamy, and they could also be cousins. Like, I don't know. What are the names of the servants? Laban gifted to Rachel and Leah. I think it's these two, because this sounds really familiar. Yeah, I knew it. What portion of food was placed in storage during Egypt's 7 years of abundance? We already answered this, 1/5. I like that a lot of these questions are asking the same thing from different points of view, because if you get it right the first time, you'll get it right the second time. From which part of Adam was Eve formed? The rib, but arguably an entire side of him, which at some point I'm going to make a video about it. And that's a video that right now I have, like, not a script, but I have an outline written for, and I just need to fill in the outline. And I haven't yet, because I'm just so burnt out. It's like I have an unedited vlog that I just need to edit and upload, but I haven't. Like, during the school year, I kept saying, oh, when I have free time during the summer, I'm going to make a lot of YouTube. And then now during the summer, I don't want to do anything. I just want to, like, play The Sims and read the Bible. Like, I've been working through burnout for, like, 2 years now, and now I just want to do nothing, now that I'm free. What kind of wood was used in the ark's construction? I think... Oh, I don't know. I think... Acacia? Oh, okay. Well... Wow, we still have 105 questions left. Oh golly, I'm sorry for making this, like, long video. I don't know if anyone's actually gonna listen to this, but if you do, thanks. How many trained men did Abram take with him to rescue Lot? I think 218? No, okay. Who did Abraham marry after the death of his wife Sarah? I think Silpha? Or maybe Keturah. Keturah? Yeah, okay, we did it. What did Jacob pour onto a stone pillar to commemorate the second time God named Israel? I think drink offering and oil. I'm pretty sure, yeah. How old was Jacob when he resettled in Goshen? I don't know, 120? Okay. What did Adam and Eve wear to cover their nakedness in the Garden of Eden? This is the fig leaves. Which, that's actually where you get Freemason aprons from, and it's where you get Latter-day Saint wedding aprons from. If this video wasn't already super long, I'd go into a long rant about this, but I don't have the time. I actually have, right now it's almost noon as I'm recording this. I have a thing I need to do at 2, but I need to leave the house at 1:45. So I might not be able to finish this quiz during the video, even though I thought I would. Who married the daughters of man? The sons of God, which is what we were just talking about, the Nephilim. How old was Ishmael when he was circumcised? I think 8 days, because I think that's why... Oh, no. This was before people started doing that. I should have read all the answers first. That's on me. I remember the story now. Who did Abraham and Isaac both lie to about their wives being their sisters? So not only did Abraham do it twice, but then Isaac did it. I think Abimelech. Yeah. Bro could not catch a break. But also, both of those people didn't really lie about their wives being their sisters. Their wives were their sisters. This was Cupbearer and Baker. I don't need to read all the answers. I know that one. Who is the craftiest creature in creation? The serpent. How much taller were the floodwaters than the highest mountain peak? I'm going to say 15 cubits. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Sorry if my voice now has this weird, like, scratchy quality to it. I really am just using it more than I've, like, ever used it. And I don't have water with me. What did God use to destroy Sodom? He used burning sulfur. Rained down from the heavens. Who is the only daughter of Leah? I think Dinah. Yeah. How many times was Jacob renamed Israel? Twice. Again, don't need to read the answers. Which of these was not one of the curses placed on Eve? Desire for children. Which, by the way, some of the other curses that weren't listed here, that are listed either, if they're not in the Bible, they're listed in, like, the Mishnah and then commented on in the Talmud, would be... Oh, wait, no, never mind. I was thinking of curses placed on Lilith. Again, really interesting story. I don't have the time to share it. I'll share it later. When did the floodwaters dry up from the earth? I don't know. I was already asked that. I don't know. What is the name of Nahor's concubine? It's not Tamar. It's not Lilith. It's one of these two. I'm going to pick Ruma. Cool. Process of elimination. Who was Joseph sold to? I think he was sold to Ishmaelites, who then sold him to Egyptians. Yeah. Bro was sold more than once. He was changing hands. Who will be the laborer of the tribes of Israel? Zebulun. I don't know. Okay. I need to brush up on the tribes. What did God appoint to guard the tree of life? I think a cherubim with a sword, but maybe it was a seraphim with a sword. I'm gonna pick cherubim. Yeah. Which again, I have a lot I want to say about angels that we don't have the time for. Well, actually, no, because the point of this video is to yap about stuff. What I will say is angel just means messenger. So when cherubim and seraphim are today described as angel, we think of angel being like a type of being. Just like we'll say dog is a type of being, and there's like different subsets within dog, like golden doodle or like retriever or whatever. Angel was not always considered a subtype of person. Like, it wasn't always considered a subtype. It was used to be considered like an occupation. Like a human could be an angel. So a cherub or a seraph who was holding that occupation at the moment would be an angel. So that makes me wonder, back then, what would cherubim and seraphim be considered a subtype of? Or were they not even subtypes of the same thing? There's more I can say, but I'm just going to leave it at that. Honestly, I should start live streaming these because I can go on like more rambles. Because now I want to go back and ramble about other stuff I skipped, but I forgot what they were. Because if I just skip through this to do trivia, that's not fun. The fun part is talking to you, and the fun part is getting to share stuff I know. So, wild. Who discovered Noah naked and passed it drunk in his tent? Ham, and that's where we get the curse of Ham from. When Esau was born, he was described as what? Red and hairy. How many outfits did Joseph give to his brother Benjamin? I don't know, 5? What land lies east of Eden? I think Nineveh. No, Cain? Not Nod? Yeah, Nod. What hazard filled the valley of Siddim? I think tar pits. Yeah. Why did God enable Leah to have children? Because she was unloved. So he was tricked into marrying Leah, and he wanted to marry Rachel. And because he loved Rachel and not Leah, to sort of even it out, Leah got to have children, and Rachel had her womb shut up, so she couldn't have children. That's a lesson to love your wives equally. Or don't marry more than one person, you know. Whichever's easier for you. Who is the lion of Israel's sons? I think Judah. I knew that one, and I literally only know that because I'm Christian, and people will try to connect Jesus back to the tribe of Judah. Why did God take Enoch away? Because he was faithful. He was faithful, so God took him up to walk with God. Where was Hagar from? I think Canaan. Nope, okay. I don't know. When Esau and Israel's livestock became too great for the land, where did Esau relocate? I think Padan Aram, which is why he was returning from there. No, okay. Who invented forging and working with bronze? Again, this is one of Cain's descendants, but then also if you read like Enoch stuff, it was from the Nephilim, which it could be both. Like I said, you can claim that Cain's descendants were the ones who were merging with the Nephilim. I'm going to say Tubal-Cain for fun. I was right that time. Let's go. I know I picked him for other things. It's like eventually it'll be right. Who did Lot offer to... Okay, yeah. We already know this story. I'm not going to explain it more. Who did Pharaoh give to Joseph as a wife? I think this? No, okay. I don't know. I knew it wasn't Potiphar. Who did God tell Abraham... Wait. What did God tell Abraham when Sarah told him to banish Hagar and Ishmael? I think he said to do as Sarah says? I don't know. Yeah. Where did Jacob instruct Joseph to place his hand while swearing with it? It was on his thigh. Which that's actually something I have a lot of questions about, and I need to look into. Because I think I see a connection between that and a method of dream divination done by, like, European Jews centuries later, but I'm not sure. The inclination of the hearts of men were what? Only evil all the time. All evil all the time. Which son did Rebecca favor? Oh, she preferred Jacob. And the dad preferred the other one, which sounds a lot like my household. What did Jacob name the place where he wrestled with God? Like Peniel? Because I just picked it, said L at the end, and none of the others did. What was the interior and exterior of the ark to be covered with? Gold. I know. Oh, I was thinking of the Ark of the Covenant, not Noah's Ark. Tar, I think. Then I guess pitch. I'll be real, I don't know what the difference between tar and pitch are, so feel free to let me know. Last time someone was very helpfully explaining to me that lyres and harps are very similar, which I did know that, I'm just like stupid. I actually don't know this one, so I guess tell me what pitch is, please. Or not, I might look it up after if I'm not like rushing to a meeting. Who would have inherited Abram's estate if Isaac was not born? Ishmael. No, okay. Oh yeah, because Ishmael was had through a slave, so he wouldn't have. I have no idea. What did Rachel steal from her father's house? His gods. She stole the household gods, and then she sat on them and said she was menstruating. How old was Noah when the floodwaters came? I think 500, maybe 600. Let's say 600. Let's go. What did Lot's wife become? Pillar of salt. I don't even need to read that. I know the answer. What crime was Joseph falsely accused of? It was this. Potiphar's wife wanted to get with him, and he did not want to get with her. So then she lied and said that he did this. Which Potiphar was the person who was currently enslaving him, or like the prison master when he was currently... It's complicated. On what day of the 7th month did the... I don't know. 12th. Who is Abimelech's advisor? No idea. Okay, cool. Sometimes I just pick what my gut tells me and it's right. So that's either luck or I'm being guided by the Holy Spirit. You can be the call on that. Sorry, my voice is doing the thing again. How old was Joseph when he entered Pharaoh's service? I think 30? Yeah. When did God give mankind permission to begin eating animals? After the flood. Which is kind of interesting, right? Because you see stuff like the descendants of some pre-flood people were referred to as great hunters, whether that's bow hunting in specific, with, you know, or whether that's Nimrod or whatever. Like, I think, unless I'm getting stuff backwards, unless that was after the flood. But anyway, what I'm getting at is I think before the flood, many people were listed as hunters. So if human beings were not given permission to eat meat until after the flood, that kind of shows some wickedness there that I think someone reading the Bible today wouldn't see. They'd read so-and-so is a great hunter, and they'd be like, okay, I don't care. But then I read it, and I'm like, well, if we're not supposed to be eating meat, them, like, hunting, killing animals, if it's just for, like, the fur or, like, the hide to make a tent, okay, like, maybe that's fine, I don't know. But if the implication is these people are eating meat, that shows an additional sin that people probably wouldn't see. And then they'd say, like, all these people are sinning, the hearts of all men are wicked. Someone might not be seeing that in the Bible, and they'd be like, you know, what's being talked about here? They could just be talking about people eating. You don't know. Was another name of Hebron? I don't know. Once again, my gut told me. Which of Joseph's brothers tried to rescue him from the others? I think Reuben. Yeah. Reuben was the nice guy. Why did Abram command Sarai to tell Pharaoh's sister? Because he feared her. Yep. Not feared her. Because he feared Pharaoh, and he thought Pharaoh would kill him to get her. What did Jacob build at El Bethel? He built an altar. He set up a little stone, and he poured drink offering and oil over it. What was the minimum number of people needed to live in Sodom for God to spare? I think it was 5. It got negotiated down a lot. Oh, okay, I'm wrong. It started at 50, and he kept negotiating down further and further. Who is the father of Methuselah? I think Enoch. Okay. Who is the father of Enoch? I have no idea. Who is the father of the other Enoch? Hey, I had to try, right? It's like, what if? Oh. Okay, it actually ended far sooner than I thought it would, and maybe I have a health bar, and if I get a bunch wrong in a row, that kicks me out. My computer tried to restart again. Well, because this ended so soon, now I feel bad for not yapping about some of the stuff I wanted to yap about and saying I'll talk about it at a later date, but I forget what they are. I got 131 out of 195, which like isn't the best, but it's my personal best, and it's not that bad. I'll say because I did not get a thing popping up saying personal best, my guess is I have some health bar that I can't see, and if I get enough wrong in a row without like regaining health by getting them right, I just get kicked out. But hey, my personal best, this is not that bad. I'm probably gonna head out now to like get water and care for myself because I'm feeling a little bit weird. But thank you for watching, especially if you watched all of this like long, insane video of me just rambling about the Bible. I hope you learned something. I also hope that if I got something wrong and you know the answer, please enlighten me in the comments. If I talked about a story that's significant to you and you think I'm missing the significance of it, please let me know. Just like share what you know about the Bible in the comments with me, please. Um, Anything important or significant, because I really enjoy learning. I love hearing what different stories mean to different people, and I guess if you have any tips or tricks on how to remember names or dates, please let me know, because that's always been a weak point of mine, even like back in elementary school. I was never able to remember names and dates unless they rhymed, like the Christopher Columbus in 1492 type stuff. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day. God loves you, and so do I. Bye!